Okay, so welcome to everybody who's watching this and listening to this. This is STORTKOP
Mhm.
Confessions. It's a side project of Singing in the Shower concerts. I'm Maureen Lotino, the creator and host of this platform. I'm talking to South Africa's music industry professionals and entertainers, and we are talking about the industry and the impact of lockdown on their careers. And today, my guest is Thato Tswai. Toto and I know each other from
Yeah,
jazz gigs, some lovely jazz gigs that we did together for a short
yeah.
while in Pretoria. And I'm so happy that you can join me today, Toto. It's so nice to actually just see you again. It feels like we
Sure.
are together in the flesh, but not quite. But this is
Yes.
nice. This is good enough. Toto,
Yeah,
so
it is.
yeah, so welcome and thank you for being part of the project. Um,
Sure. I'm
yeah,
happy to be part of the project and looking forward to this conversation.
awesome. Toto, please tell the viewers and the listeners about your career. Like, if you can start from the beginning, I want people to understand what it took for you to build up what you have been building up for yourself
Sure.
up until just before lockdown. Cover everything that you've been doing.
Sure. Do we have enough time? Because we might need to be here for days.
Eh, we'll make a plan.
uh,
We'll make a plan.
but yeah, I started playing at the age of, I think I was 13. I started playing drums at church. And in the meantime, I wanted to study medicine. So
Wow.
when I got to matric, my marks were not quite enough for me to apply for medicine.
Yeah.
And since I was playing drums, I took a gap year in order to upgrade my marks.
Okay.
And all that I did in that year was practice playing drums and study, practice playing drums and study. And by the end of that year, I had fallen so much in love with music and playing drums that I just decided to go for that instead. And the marks
Awesome.
were fine for me to pursue a career in medicine, but
Uh,
uh, the heart was just for music. So
Fantastic.
from there, I went to go study in TUT
Okay.
um, for a diploma in music. Haven't completed that. Yes, I need to go
Okay.
finish that. Along the way, I met a lot of professionals in the industry, and uh, I mean yourself included. Did a few performances, and I then started teaching privately as well. And then I was employed at the Tswai School of Music with Wayne
Nice.
Bosch, where I
Nice.
worked there for about 7 years. By the time I left there, I was the music program manager, and the company unfortunately had to retrench. And
Oh,
when I left there, I now joined the South African Police Service, the SAPS band.
I see.
So that's what I'm doing at the moment. So
Okay,
um,
great.
yeah, I think
Awesome.
that about covers it in a nutshell.
Awesome. Well, I think
Yeah.
it's really profound that, you were able to go and study medicine, but this passion overtook that decision and you went for
Yes.
music because
Yes.
people, I don't know, people often think that musicians can't do anything else because it's easy to do
Mm,
music and, we
mm,
can't become doctors and CAs. I think some people think
mm.
that, but we can. It's just that we
Yeah.
have this passion and talent and that's what we want to do. So I really like, I
Sure.
honor you for that, following
Sure.
that road. Um,
Sure.
and it's awesome that you've worked in different contexts as well, like now with
Sure.
SAPS. Um,
Sure.
I'd like to speak about that a little bit later, your experience in the
Sure.
different contexts that you've performed in and
Yeah.
worked in. Um, so, Tata, when you heard the news that the country was going to be locked down for 3 weeks, that was our last
Hmm.
year, 2002, March. It's going to be three
Yeah.
weeks. What was your reaction? How did you feel about it? And I assume that you went into panic mode, as did the whole world. And what did you immediately start doing to kind of save the situation and try and start making plans, you know, to survive?
Yeah. So when at the end of 2018, that's when the Tswai School of Music started retrenching, and unfortunately, the entire staff was retrenched, myself included. And um, I was job seeking from 2018 up until 2019. Um, so when we got the news, I remember this very clearly. That's when I had the interview. My interview date was the date that the lockdown was announced. The day that the lockdown started was
Yeah.
the day that I was supposed to interview at SEPS.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I remember prior to that, I was very, very frustrated because I was looking for any form of income in order to support my family and to just sustain life.
Yeah.
And um, and finally, when I have an opportunity for for a real career building opportunity, then
Mm.
lockdown was announced, and that process was just furthermore delayed. So I must say I was very frustrated.
Yeah.
I was very scared for survival's sake. I was annoyed,
Yeah.
and I didn't anticipate that it's gonna be so severe, that it's gonna be so that it's gonna take so long,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
um, everything else stopped. I mean, um, apart from teaching professionally, I mean, I would do performances. I have my own band, so I had a few regular gigs around town,
Yeah.
a few restaurants in Pretoria, and all of those just stopped. Everything stopped at one go.
Yes. Yeah.
Loss of income,
Yeah.
like it, like it really felt like a nightmare,
Mm.
that one couldn't wake up from, because everything that you used to. I mean, I remember as musicians, especially active musicians, we don't worry so much about where is my next meal gonna come from, or I don't know, maybe if I have to pay for something, I don't crack my skull. I know I'll get a call. I'll get a call, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and and I'll have the funds for whatever. So,
Mm.
yo, when lockdown hit, it was dry
Yeah.
for like the next 6 months.
Mm.
No sense of no form of income
Mm.
whatsoever.
You.
And and that for me came at the time where I was already in a very poor financial situation
Yeah.
into a nightmare,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Yes. I actually spoke to somebody. Now that you mentioned you had regular gigs going
Mm-hmm.
on, he said that their union, he's part of the actors
Mm-hmm.
union, they actually
Mm-hmm.
did pay him out some money because he could prove that he still had income for those
Sure.
first few weeks or months. So he had to
Sure.
prove this is the contract stipulating the amount of money I would have been paid if I did
Yeah.
this. So I'm immediately thinking, if you had regular gigs at venues, would you have been able to do the same thing, or how did that work? Did you kind of try to do that, or not really? I'm also thinking of the government's, the grants and stuff.
Mm.
Did you apply for that,
Mm.
and what's your opinion and experience about all that?
So I couldn't, because I didn't have any contracts, any formal contracts,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Mm.
Um, um, and I mean, some of the work that we do, in most cases, we don't follow the correct procedures. a manager at the restaurant calls you, hey man, I need a
Mm,
band
mm,
at such and such a time,
yeah,
and I've got this much, and you know,
yeah,
and
exactly.
that's our fault as musicians as well, to allow those
Mm,
types of dealings to happen in that way, because we
yeah,
just show up at the designated time,
mm,
provide our services, and get paid, and that has been working
mm,
for the longest time, and it's only now and then, like it's very rare
mm,
to get booked to do a performance and uh, not get paid, you
yeah,
know, or
exactly.
not get paid uh, at all. Most of
Yeah,
the times we do get paid, but just not at the agreed time.
yeah,
So
yeah,
opened my eyes to also try and protect myself as much as I could in terms
mm,
of future
mm,
performances like regular gigs and whatnot, or any
mm,
event, just to have
mm,
some form of contract to say, okay, I'm
yeah.
coming to provide a service, just sign this and mail it back.
Exactly. I think this is an important topic that you're touching on because most of us work like that. It's verbal
Yeah,
contracts, and it's not.
yeah,
I feel like when it's a festival or like a wedding or something big, then
mm,
there's contracts and stuff. But when it's at a
mm,
restaurant, for example, where you play regularly,
yeah,
you have a relationship with the people, we're in
mm,
agreement like that. But now
yeah,
the government needed that piece of paper with the amount of money
that
on it
piece
and
of
that stuff.
paper. Hmm.
So I think
Hmm.
perhaps if we do it like that, if we do things like that, we have a contract in place and we just start working in that manner collectively,
Sure,
maybe that whole thing
sure,
will change and help us. um
sure.
yeah. So you said you had some regular gigs happening and everything stopped. Couldn't apply for grants like many other people. um
Hmm.
and then how did you survive? You don't have to go into much detail, but what did you start
Sure.
doing yeah, to sustain your living?
So, the only thing that saved me or my family was the church, you know. I play at church and I get a little remuneration at the end of the month for my services. And
Okay.
that is the only thing that kept me in the dark days where there was no income
Wow.
from other revenues that I was used to,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm.
So that's the that's the only reason
Bless
why
you.
we survived, how we survived.
Ah.
Because my church, even though services were not happening, they would still pay out, you know.
Fantastic.
Even
Wow.
though we even though we were not rendering the services, they would still pay out
Mm.
because they understood that we needed that income for
Mm.
survival.
Yeah.
And I'm forever grateful for that.
Exactly. This also makes me think of the essential services list of essential services that the government gave.
Sure.
I'm also part of the
Hmm.
worship band here in town, which is so
Uh-huh.
lovely. I love my church. I love doing that. And when the gigs stopped or were stopped, the
Hmm.
church was seen as an essential service. In other words, we were
Hmm.
still allowed to go and
Yes.
make music on a stage and sing to
Yes.
people. So the church was
Yes.
an essential service, but not musicians,
Yes.
not the industry. So
Okay.
that kind of made me think, like, what is the difference between um, being on a stage with a band doing worship music
Yeah.
and being on a stage, whether you're doing worship music in the secular world, doesn't matter what type of music you're doing, the risk is the
Yeah.
same, isn't it? There's people in front of you
Sure.
who's listening and singing with you, and the risk is the
Sure.
same. But the big
Sure.
difference is obviously our faith and our practice of faith is considered essential, and that is true.
Sure.
That is
Sure.
true. You know,
It's very
um,
true. Mm.
I yeah, I don't know. This thing doesn't really make sense to me in any way because just to get a little bit philosophical about it, imagine a worship band wants to go and gig at a venue. They're
Yeah.
there to service the people. They're there to
Yeah.
provide that spiritual experience to people under the banner
Yeah.
of worship music. What would the difference
Sure.
then be? Maybe I'm not thinking straight. Maybe is a simple answer for it. I'm just thinking of it now. But it's amazing.
Sure. Because how I'm looking at it is that the country made a lot of decisions very haphazardly. Like so many things don't make sense. You
Mm,
know, like if
mm,
you are allowing, like for example, how after some time churches were not permitted to continue, but the restaurants could,
yeah,
or the or you know alcohol was available for sale, or whatever the situation was.
yeah,
I would like to recognize that it was a pandemic. It is a pandemic, and sorry, I was losing some lighting there, so
okay,
just trying to fix that.
okay,
So it is a pandemic. It's not something that the country was prepared for, and it's very evident in the many decisions that were made that, in retrospect, are obvious to say, ah, I think that was not necessary, or
mm,
that was too much
mm,
restriction.
yeah, yeah, that's true. I agree with you. Toto, I want to ask you, how did your way of working change during the pandemic? Obviously, in terms of gigs, that was impossible.
Sure.
The other side of gigging is your connection and relationships with other musicians. You
Sure.
can't see each other anymore. You can't have that togetherness with other musicians. So that was also a frustration for me personally, not being able to have that banter and that, that culture that we
Yeah.
have when we get together and we do our
Yeah.
thing. That I want to ask you about that. And also, you also teach. So did you try to go the online route with teaching? And if you did, how did that work out for you? What's your opinion about it? Yeah, so just tell us a little bit
Mhm.
about that. Yeah.
Okay. So, in terms of um, in terms of performance, um, I everything was on lockdown, so no one was allowed to go meet with anyone else in order
Mm,
to perform
mm,
or anything like that. So
mm.
I decided to use that time for introspection, for personal growth. So
Yes.
I invested most of my time in the practice room. All I
Mm.
all I would do would just practice, 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 practice. Initially,
Yeah.
it was just the few weeks, and that just became uh, when it extended. I was actually grateful to have an opportunity because it's something that I was looking for or forward
Yeah.
to just have time to do nothing else but to practice.
Yeah.
So um, 2 years later, I'm very happy to report that my level of playing
Yeah.
has, has benefited from just locking myself in a room because I
Yeah.
had nothing else to do,
Yeah.
just practicing all the time. And and when I got employed, I mean the interview for SAPS happened I think about 6 months later,
Yeah.
and I started working at SAPS, and um, there are no gigs. I mean, I'm working for the band service, uh, for the band at the police service, and the whole country is on lockdown. There are tough restrictions on events. So there are no performances, none
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
I've done, since working there, I started working there in December last year, 2020,
Yeah.
and we've done two performances
Yes.
since then. Previously, there
Sure.
used to be 4 to 5 performances a week. So
Yes.
like one a day kind of situation to two performances in 8 months
Yeah. Yeah.
plus.
Wow.
All I've been doing is just practicing.
Yeah. This is
So,
yeah.
so I have then, since then, decided to shift my attention to YouTube,
Uh-huh.
to focus more on my YouTube channel
Yeah.
and get more material going towards that. And in terms of lessons, I did try go online, but the thing with music lessons is that parents don't want to invest in, and it's like parents don't want to buy instruments for their kids until they are that much serious about what they are doing,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm,
And
mm.
drum set is not cheap, especially under 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 such tough times.
Yeah.
Spending 15,000 rand on
Absolutely.
a child that's starting an instrument,
Yeah.
and 2 months later they lose interest. It's a loss
Yep.
for the parents. So,
Yeah.
and I don't recommend for parents to buy instruments for kids that are just beginning, you
Yeah.
know.
Mm, mm.
So most of my students are one-on-one, face-to-face thing, because I have two drum sets set up in a room. They
Mm,
come in, they get a feel for it. If they don't
mm,
like it,
mm.
2 months later, a parent can decide, nah, drums is not for my child, and move on. You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So most of my clients are actually those types of people,
Okay. I see.
where the parent is like it's new students, and the intermediate and the advanced students, those are the ones that I recommend. You must have your own instruments in order to grow, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that didn't work out.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it just didn't work out because of that.
That's it. It's a really it's difficult. Like you're saying, your instrument determines the type of student that you get, and actually how
Hmm.
many students you'll get. I remember I had a colleague at a school. He's a double bass player, and
Yeah.
a grade 7 child, grade 8, grade 9 child is way too small to actually hold the bass. So the only students
Sure.
he would get are the like matrics and the grade 11s. That's
Grown-ups.
kind
Yeah.
of the downside of the double bass, and it's just how it is.
Yeah.
And with drums,
Yeah.
it's almost the same thing. It's a very niche thing.
Yeah.
Guitarists, plenty guitarists, plenty singers,
Sure.
plenty bass players, etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tata, so if people want to get in contact with you for lessons, you're based in Pretoria,
Yes.
and where is your
Yes.
studio? Is it at your home?
Yes. My studio
Okay,
is at my home.
okay, and yeah,
Um,
how
um,
can they contact you?
so they can send me an email
Okay,
at 80, the letter 80,
yeah,
and my surname, Tswai, 80 dot Tswai, Tswai, at gmail.com.
okay,
They can send me a WhatsApp
okay,
on 081 738 5715.
okay,
They can find me on Facebook,
exactly.
is Thato Tswai on drums.
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna add that
And
info.
I also have an Instagram page, Thato_Tswai.
Okay, fantastic. Wouldn't be difficult to find you. And I'll add
No,
the information in the video, and then people can just contact you for lessons. Yeah,
sure.
let's talk a little bit about the industry. And I guess I want to ask you, do you think it's lucrative to become a musician and to be a musician? And what special skills or what type of skills do you need really to survive, to make it happen? How do you work? Where's your mind at regarding a career in music? If you have to tell a young person today, what does it take?
Um, I would say to any young person to say, get your qualification. You know, we tend to take it for granted as musicians, because you can just pick up your instrument, learn how to play it, and begin to work. You know,
Yeah,
um, One of the nice things about music was I, I used to pay for my own fees at
Yeah.
TUT because I would be gigging outside and paying for my fees and whatnot, because you don't necessarily need a qualification in order to work.
Mm.
In order
Yep.
to jump on stage, you don't need a qualification. So most musicians don't end up going for the qualification. I would say get a qualification,
Mm.
because there are some doors that open because of qualification. Like
Yep.
for example, there are a lot of bands in the government. Every, like the police service, the Air Force, the Navy, you name it, they have bands,
Yeah.
and in most cases they need musicians. They need people they can employ, and
Yep.
so many people can play instruments, but so little people have qualification in order
Mm.
to be employed or to qualify. So I would say get that qualification,
Mm.
and once you have that qualification, practice, because that's the other thing. Most people who do have qualifications don't practice.
Mm.
There are other avenues like teaching. There's a lot of schools that need teachers if that kind of thing is for them. But in terms of performance and being a star, it was difficult before COVID.
Yep.
Now it's even more difficult because um, it's just a mess.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, it is difficult. I think, however, that the many people moved online. Like all of a
Yeah.
sudden, everybody's singing and playing instruments online, and now
Yes.
the most amazing artists have emerged from nowhere. And that kind of
Yes.
made me think also, wow, who's this person? They're amazing. Like there's some really
Yeah.
successful people out there who,
Yeah.
in my opinion, don't sound like that and don't have that
Yeah.
skill and talent. So that also
Yeah.
made me think, wow, yeah, what is this industry built on? You know, um,
Yeah.
it's a really complex thing, the music industry. I've
Yeah.
had so many lovely
I
conversations
mean,
the past week about it, but yeah, it's complex.
think about it this way. Prior to this generation, you needed to be affiliated or associated to a record label and have a record deal in order to have a chance in making it professionally.
Yeah,
And now with social media, we don't necessarily need that, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, it's true.
Um, Someone like Justin Bieber became uh, like he trended because of social media. People knew who he was across around the world,
Mm,
and his success was from social media, and that's a good and bad thing,
mm.
because someone um, you don't have to have a special skill in order to trend. you know you can be
Hey,
incredibly silly,
that's
incredibly
clear.
stupid,
Yeah, that's true.
and trend.
Yeah, yep.
So someone once told me, if you want to be famous, just fall off your drum chair every time you play, you'll be famous.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, I'm yet to try that. I think desperate times call for desperate.
Yeah, we are sitting in the bath. Maybe we're gonna
Yeah,
trend after this.
sure,
Um,
sure.
yeah. Well, Tato, I don't know. Is there anything else that you wanna add to your experience and wanna share? Oh, not add to it, but share about your experience the past year and a half. What your plans are for the future. Um, SAP
Okay,
S band, yes.
yeah. So I must say, through through the ups and downs, um, if I were to do it again, I probably would
Okay.
uh, take that decision, because it's a very fulfilling life.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very priceless. It's very priceless to get paid to do what you love to do.
Fantastic.
Something
Yeah.
that you would do for free.
Yeah.
like to get paid for that, to get paid to have fun. Um, it's very fulfilling, and I don't have any gray hairs. Maybe it's not the time yet, but uh, but um, I'm living a very happy life, very fulfilled life. So I would, I would, I wouldn't discourage anyone uh, to do music. I would say get a plan, have a plan, and have a direction, and stop at nothing until you see that fulfilled. You know.
Yeah.
But in terms of, yeah, that's just what I wanted to add, to say it's very fulfilling to do what you love.
Yeah, that is the truth. That's what it comes down to, and that's why we're willing to have this up and down lifestyle,
Yeah,
to maintain it, because it's not a
yeah,
normal thing. It's a different energy all in one there. To be
yeah,
a musician, there's a lot of stuff that you
yeah.
have to manage and learn while you do that, while you
Sure,
pursue a career.
sure.
Toto, I want to ask
And you
you.
get to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
mhm.
yeah.
I just wanted to add, you get to meet different people, interesting
Yeah,
people every
that's
day,
true. That is
Yeah.
so true. That is
Mm,
very true, actually.
mm.
I think that musicians are very privileged in the sense that we meet people of all kinds of backgrounds,
Yes,
races, whatever, like you
yes,
just said. And for
yes.
me, being an Afrikaans white person who grew up in a
Mm,
majority, like a what's the word, a white community, white
yeah.
school, Afrikaans, all that, came out of
Mm,
school, went to study music. And here, for the first time, really, I'm surrounded with people from different races, English,
yes,
all that's around
yes.
me. And it took me a few years to get used to adjusting to this. But what I found in being a musician and doing that, sorry, I'm speaking about myself now, but I know
Sure, sure.
you'll concur what I'm saying,
Yes,
because we've also worked together. Like, I
yes,
don't see that barrier. It's not there for me.
yes,
I don't see like a wall between me and a person of a
yes,
different race at all. And the country is struggling
yes.
with that theme a lot. But I feel
Yeah,
so lucky to have been in that position. I don't know
sure.
what you feel, what you think about that, but yeah,
Yeah,
that is lovely. It's a privilege to do
yeah.
this.
I mean, today I'm sitting at my home. Tomorrow I could be sitting next to the president,
Yeah,
performing for the president.
yeah,
You
that's
know?
true. It's a fact. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. People from all walks of life. That's true.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, thank you for joining me. I want to ask you the last question.
Mhm.
What made you decide to or agree to be part of this project? When I invited you, why did you think, you know what, I want to do this?
Firstly, because of the relationship that I have with you.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I take you very seriously. So
Thank
when you
you.
asked, if someone else asked, I probably would have said, let me think about it. But
I hear you. I hear
but
you.
but yeah, firstly because of you,
Thank you,
and
Toto.
secondly, it was a very intriguing uh, way to conduct interviews, and I wanted to be part of it. You know,
Okay, awesome.
I mean, here I am sitting in my bathroom,
Yeah,
and there you are sitting in your bathroom, and we're having a conversation.
yeah.
This is literally the longest conversation I've had in a bathroom.
And that's the point of STORTKOP confessions, because when we're alone in the shower, we have our own thoughts that spin. But now we have
Sure,
someone with us that we can share all this crazy stuff in our own
sure,
heads.
sure.
Toto, I want to ask you: do you think that this project will bring value to the music industry? To have people
Absolutely.
stripped naked in terms of the truth, speaking the truth. You're saying exactly what you think, what you feel, what you experienced. I don't know. I don't think we often get the opportunity to do that. And
Sure,
I don't know. I think it's necessary. Do you think it will mean something to the
sure.
music industry?
I think so. I think so.
Thanks.
Absolutely. There are some of the things. some of the things that we spoke about today that I wish someone could have said to me
Yeah.
before I started the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are some things that sometimes just to keep pressing on and just keep going at it. That word of encouragement,
Yeah.
So even as a music professional, just to sit down and listen to somebody else's story,
Yeah.
that will give me courage. So
Yeah.
by all means, I'm in full
Exactly.
support.
Exactly that. I think we feel alone in our showers with our own thoughts,
Yeah.
but when we start talking about it and talking to each other, we realize that we're actually not that alone in it, and then we immediately feel a bit more empowered. So yeah, thank you for your contribution,
Sure.
and I'm sure people will find this very valuable. So yeah,
Sure.
I'm gonna say bye now, and you must enjoy the rest of your day. Just want to give the date.
Sure.
It's 24 August 2021, Tuesday. And thank you.
Sure.
We'll chat
Thank you
again.
for this opportunity.
It's only a pleasure. I'm having so much fun.
Okay, all the best.
You too, thank you.
Yes, bye.
Bye.